Welcome back. All right, so we are going to finish up the Pacific Division by taking a look at the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers, of course, have been in the news a lot the last 7 days. You'll also notice the Let's Go Oilers magnet right alongside a Western Conference champion Oilers magnet. It's not dated, so technically, if they win the Western Conference again this year, I could use it again next year for their season preview. But getting back to the Stanley Cup final is not easy. It's never an easy road. We'll see how they navigate that this coming season. So from 2014-15 until now, their top 10 scorers dominated by McDavid and Draisaitl, of course. McDavid, 645 games played, 335 goals, 647 assists, 982 points. So about a month into the season, he'll probably record that 1,000th point. It's not in Gretzky territory for when he gets it, but it's still a very, very impressive small amount of games to get to 1,000 points for Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl, 719 games played, 347 goals, 503 assists, 850 points. So Draisaitl, who's in a contract year, he's 50 points away from 900 in his career. This is really that 1-2 punch in Edmonton. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 699 games played, 210 goals, 357 assists, 567 points. He has thrived playing on McDavid's line as well. Darnell Nurse, 640 games, 76 goals, 191 assists, 267 points. And a contract which a lot of Oilers fans talk about. Zach Hyman, 235 games played, 117 goals, 97 assists, 214 points. Hyman coming off of what appears to be a career season. We'll see whether or not he can follow it up with something similar. And then Evan Bouchard, 265 games played, 41 goals, 130 assists, 171 points. Bouchard came into his own as well. Was that a career year? Is that what we can expect from him going forward? We're going to find out. Jordan Eberle, 232 games, 69 goals, 92 assists, 161 points. Oscar Klefbom, who officially retired today, 361 games, 33 goals, 120 assists, 153 points. Zach Kassian, 412 games, 55 goals, 80 assists, 135 points. And Tyson Barrie qualifies for the top 10, 190 games played, 25 goals, 107 assists, 132 points. In terms of their top 5 goaltenders over this last 10 seasons, Cam Talbot, record of 104, 95, and 19. Mikko Koskinen's on the board. There you go, 83, 59, and 13. I liked Koskinen. Stuart Skinner, 72, 36, and 10 record. Mike Smith, 56, 27, and 10 record. And Jack Campbell's on the board. 22, 13, and 4 record for Jack Campbell. Now, over the last 5 seasons, in points percentage, the Oilers have been 7th in the NHL, 633. So good number there. Goals for per game, 3.51. That's 4th overall in the National Hockey League. Goals against per game, 2.98. That's 17th best. So that's something that they've been working on improving. And it did improve this past season. Their power play, first in the NHL this past season at 28.5%, which was actually a drop from where it was the season before. And the penalty kill, 80.1%, which is 12th overall in the NHL, and a strong overall number from them there. And then when we look at the numbers from this season, their points percentage was 634 this season, so right on, almost right on with the average of 633 over 5 seasons. But that was good for 9th this season in the National Hockey League. Goals for per game at 3.56, that's 4th. So again, very consistent numbers here. 2.88 goals against average was 10th in the National Hockey League this past season. Their power play at 26.3% was actually 4th, so actually a bit of a drop. The 28.5% is overall, and of course, last year, 2022-2023, this is where getting all the years mixed up happens, because you get old, it happens. So the 28.5%, of course, is the average. The 26.3% is what they had this past season. When you're below average and it's a 26.3% power play, that's really good. Their penalty kill this past season, 79.5%. Good for 15th in the National Hockey League, right around average there. So they'll want to get the penalty kill a little better. The power play, not quite as lethal as it was the year before, but still very, very good. So their top 10 scorers for 2023-2024, Connor McDavid at the top, 76 games, 32 goals, 100 assists for 132 points. Leon Draisaitl, 81 games, 41 goals, 65 assists for 106 points. Evan Bouchard, 81 games, 18 goals, 64 assists, 82 points. Full credit to Paul Coffey for getting him there. Zach Hyman, 80 games, 54 goals, 23 assists, 77 points. I would think a few more assists, probably a few less goals from Hyman, but still a pretty good season. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, 80 games, 18 goals, 49 assists for 67 points. Matthias Ekholm, 79 games, 11 goals, 34 assists, 45 points. And a lot of comments about my top 12 defensemen and not having Ekholm in there. Everybody knows I love Matthias Ekholm's game. I did have him in the top 10 defensemen not that long ago. It's just there's a lot of really good defensemen in the NHL right now. Evander Kane, who is expected to start the season on LTIR, 77 games, 24 goals, 20 assists, 44 points. And there was just something underwhelming with Kane's game this past season, so maybe he was playing through injury. Warren Fogle, who is left for the Kings, 80 games, 20 goals, 21 assists, 41 points. Darnell Nurse, 81 games, 10 goals, 22 assists, 32 points. And Ryan McLeod, 81 games, 12 goals, 18 assists for 30 points. Their top two goaltenders, of course, Stuart Skinner, 36, 16, and 5 record, 905 save percentage, 2 shutouts. Calvin Pickard, 12, 7, and 1 record, 909 save percentage, and 1 shutout. The interesting thing when it comes to the goaltending with the Edmonton Oilers is that as soon as they lose a game and Skinner's numbers aren't very good, immediately people will jump on, well, see, Skinner's not good enough. They're not going to win with Skinner. But then he'll have a great game the next night out. And in the playoffs, he had a rough start to every series, and then he was fantastic the rest of the way. So if he can figure out how to get rid of some of that inconsistency, he has a chance to be a top 10 goaltender in the National Hockey League. So my rookie watch, I don't think there's a lot of room here, but Matthew Savoy could jump into the lineup in the event of an injury. And Robbie Yarventi, who comes over from the Ottawa Senators, of course, there's an outside chance he could get into some games. Again, they're going to need injuries for these guys to get in, but every team has injuries during the season. So the top 12 forwards for the Edmonton Oilers, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman. That's a pretty strong top line. Jeff Skinner, Leon Draisaitl, and Victor Arvidsson. So the idea that both of the new wingers would be paired with Draisaitl, tantalizing. We'll see if that happens during the preseason. I would think that's the best part of preseason is testing that kind of thing out. Third line, I think it's Janmark, Henrique, and Perry. Because sure, why not? Corey Perry coming back for another year, which means they win the conference and then they don't win in the Stanley Cup. That seems to be the meme that Corey Perry's become at this point in his career. On the fourth line, I think the newly added Vasily Podkolzin fits in there. Keep in mind, Podkolzin is not waivers exempt. So if they try to waive him, they try to put him in the minors, he could very well get picked up by somebody else. Derek Ryan and Connor Brown on that fourth line. And I'm glad they brought back Connor Brown. I thought the end of the regular season and how he played in the playoffs, he earned himself a return to the Edmonton Oilers lineup. So the extras would be Matthew Savoy, who will probably be the first one called up if they need a skilled player. Raphael Lavoie, so that'll be fun, Savoy and Lavoie if they're in the same lineup. Lane Peterson, James Hamblin, who got into some games. Drake Caggiula, he's still there. And Robbie Yarventi. So Yarventi, I think, has a chance to play some games here, but we shall see how things go for the Oilers. I like their depth. They have 3 scoring lines here. Perry's scoring has dropped off a bit, but again, by a bit, I mean it's dropped off way from where it was at his peak. But if Perry's scoring's really a problem, and if they end up making him a healthy scratch, that's where you could bring in a Savoy and maybe give him that chance, right? There you go. On the blue line, you've got Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard. That is the top tandem there, or top pairing there. The tandem's, of course, the goaltenders. Darnell Nurse and Brett Kulak, so likely to be the top 4. Josh Brown added in the offseason. Of course, Ty Emberson added in a trade via San Jose. As a third pairing, that's okay, but there's other guys who could push their way in. Troy Stetcher, veteran defenseman, didn't look out of place for the Oilers last season, so Stetcher could get into some games. Connor Carrick, veteran there. Cam Dineen, Ben Gleason. There's some guys here who can jump in if need be. Again, you're going to see injuries during the season. It's important to have guys who can hop into the lineup as need be. And it does make me wonder if the Oilers maybe would prefer to add one more veteran up front, just looking at the extras up front. Maybe one more veteran, but they don't have the cap space for that, and we'll discuss. So their top 2 goaltenders, pretty obvious here, Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. I thought Pickard's story this past season was fantastic. Calvin Pickard, a goaltender that not that long ago looked like he was going to play the rest of his career in the AHL. And he's back at the NHL level and gets an extension from the Oilers, and he earned it. So a guy who I was a fan of when he was the starter in Colorado, I understand why he ended up in the AHL. I know he had some struggles, but I'm glad to see he found his footing and he's back at the NHL level. And then when you get into extras, Colin Delia has joined the team. He'll be the number 3. And Olivier Rodrigue could very well end up getting maybe a game here and there. At what point does Rodrigue get that chance, right? So, yeah, we'll see. Cap space, $945,833, according to Puckpedia, which is why you don't basically match. There's the word I'm looking for. You're not matching the contracts given to Broberg and Holloway. And, I mean, does it affect their depth? It definitely affects their depth on the blue line and might mean you have one more player in your lineup up front that you'd rather not necessarily have, but they picked up Podkolzin to kind of offset that. So we'll see how it all turns out. So the cap space isn't there. Is the schedule friendly to them? Well, in October, they have 6 out of 11 at home. November, they have 7 out of 13 on the road, so that evens out there. In December, 9 of 13 are at home. So right around Christmas, they should be in a pretty good spot. The Oilers, though, once they got things rolling under Coach Knobloch, it didn't matter whether they were at home or on the road. They were one of the best teams in the league, if not the best team in the league at certain points. I do expect them to get off to a strong start. 6 of 11 being at home to start the season should add to that as well. Now in February, and again, this is where the Four Nations Cup takes place. They have 1 at home, 2 away, 1 at home. Then you have the Four Nations Cup, and then to finish out the month of February, they have a 4-game road trip there. And then in April, 6 out of the 10 games to round out the schedule are on the road. So look for them to make hay early in the season, get that cushion that you need to, remain above the playoff line, and then just ride it from there. This is a team that absolutely, I believe, is going to be a playoff team. It's just a matter of where they finish in said playoffs. The news today that maybe Demko could be a while with Demko. Maybe he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. It's got to be music to the ears of the Edmonton Oilers because the Canucks look like the best chance for a team to maybe finish first that's not Edmonton. Outside of that, the Oilers could be playing like I did the 85-86 season this morning. The Oilers won the division by 30 points that season. I don't think they'll win the division by 30 points, but a 10-plus point division lead by the end of the season, I could see that if other teams struggle and the Oilers really click. So the Cup odds, they're number 1 right now, plus 850. So those are the best odds for the Stanley Cup at this point. They do change pretty early in the season as well, but at this stage, they're the odds-on favorite, which I don't think losing Holloway and Broberg really changes anything with, right? So the channel vote, pretty loud on this one. 84% of the channel said first or second place. 12% of the channel said third or fourth. The other 4% of the vote, probably Canuck fans. 5th and 6th, 1% of the vote goes there. 7th or 8th, 3% of the vote goes there. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Oilers, I can't see them finishing outside the top 4 in this division. I honestly have a hard time picturing them finishing outside the top 2. I think that they are still Canada's best chance to end the Stanley Cup drought that extends back to 1993. And could it happen in 2025? Yes. I think the experience of going all the way to the Stanley Cup final and being so close to winning it and not quite getting it should inspire McDavid, Draisaitl, and the rest of that team to make that just that little bit extra effort and maybe not get behind in series the way they did this past season. And that could go a long way towards maybe seeing a team north of the border hold up the Stanley Cup when it is awarded. And the Canadian-based team doing that. There have been times where the Stanley Cup gets awarded in Canada, but not to the Canadian team. So, all the best to them. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think the Edmonton Oilers have a real legitimate shot at winning the Stanley Cup? Why or why not? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. And hey, getting closer and closer to the start of the season, and the Pacific Division is now done. I will start the Central Division tomorrow. So let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.